Okay, you know what absolute value is? Does anybody know what absolute value is? Absolute value is 0. Not quite.
Represent the distance from 0 on a number line.
What does that mean, Lexi?
It means like how far left or right it is from 0.
So what's the absolute value of minus 5?
5.
5 to the left. An absolute value of 8.
Excuse me for one more announcement. Nurses Clinic will be open today from 9 till 3:30. Thank you.
Essentially, she's got it exactly right. Okay? The absolute value just means how far from 0 are you? And it's always a positive value. So it's your distance from 0. So if I have the absolute value of minus 24, 24 units from 0. So the absolute value is always the positive value. So the absolute value for 4 is 4, and the absolute value for minus 4 is 4. That's what absolute value is. Okay? So it says write the following, sorry, I've already done that. What's the absolute value then for 25? 25. And the absolute value for negative 8? 8. Okay? Write the following real numbers in order from least to greatest. Okay? So the least would be negative 10, and negative 9.8, so negative 9. Correct? Those would be your least, and then you'd have to take the absolute value of 10.1, negative 10.5, so it's 10.5, 10, 9.9, and so on. So basically, you're just finding your absolute value. The concept of absolute value is simple. It's when we have to use it to solve and then know when to use it and the order in which we use the absolute value. So for example, what was the absolute value of 5 minus 6? 1. Pretty straightforward, right? So I've got the absolute value of 2 minus the absolute value of 3 times negative 4. Okay? So starting in here, 3 times negative 4, negative 12, absolute value of negative 12. 12, 2 subtract 12. Your answer is negative 10.
Shouldn't we have an absolute value of the negative?
Absolutely not. Never. Why do I have a negative? Because I took the absolute values first and then I subtracted them.
And then it's just 10. But it's actually the absolute
What's the
value.
absolute value of 2?
2.
What's the absolute value of negative 12?
Oh. Yeah. But then doesn't it actually just have to be 10 because you can't
It's
do
not the absolute value of,
that?
it's not asking,
it's the
it's not
absolute
asking me the absolute value of that.
Oh.
It's asking me what the absolute value of 2 is, what the absolute value of negative 12 is, and then, so that's what I mean. You have to be careful with where you're doing your absolute values. Okay? So, now look at C then. I have 5 times negative 2 squared plus 7 times negative 3 subtract 15. And then the whole thing is absolute value. So in this case, your absolute value, your answer is going to be a positive value because you're taking the absolute value of the whole expression, right? So negative 2 squared, 4 times 5, 20. 20 subtract 21. Negative 1 subtract negative 15. Absolute value. Okay? So you have to be aware of where you're taking the absolute value. Does that make sense? Okay. I need you to look at 7.2. 7.1 is going to be easy. I want to look at 7.2. When we get into grade 12, what we're doing is we have 5 main graphs that we have to know. We have to know y equals x squared. We have to know the square root of x. We have to know the cube root of x. X cubed, sorry. And one of the ones that we want to know is an absolute value graph. Okay, so now thinking about what we have just done now, if then the absolute value of any graph then means that I can't have anything in the negative y of my graph. Okay, because all of the y values have to end up being positive. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at what happens here and how each of these look. So for example, that is the graph of y equals x. Okay? Fair enough? So 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, negative 1, negative 1, negative 2, negative 2. Right? So that's y equals x. Is that what the graph looks like? Alright? I want to do the graph of y equals, I should write this as a function, f of x equals the absolute value of x. So I want to take the absolute value of that graph right there. Okay? So one way to do it would be to write out your table of values and then get some coordinates and see what they look like. That's one way to do it. The second way to do it is to just simply reflect it back over the x-axis. Okay, now I want you to think about this for a second. If I put any value in here for x, what's going to happen as the y value? No matter what value of x I put in there, positive or negative, what is the y value going to be? It's going to be a positive. Right? Has to be a positive. Negative 1, absolute value of negative 1 is 1. Absolute value of negative 2, negative 3, and so on, right? So what that means is I can't have any values down here. So I reflect this. Now this is a new word for you. It's one that you're going to have to get familiar with. I reflect it over the x-axis, which means I just simply take the graph and flip it up. Okay? So this part of this graph is going to be up here now. And the other half of this graph stays as is. Because the y value here is 1, 2, 3, 4. It stays up that way. And this. So let's look at it in terms, I'm going to just do a simple table of values here. I'm going to start with, hold on. Let's start with the red here first. So I'm going to do table of values for that graph first, which is minus 3, minus 3, minus 2, minus 2, minus 1. Right? So that's for this graph here. When x is minus 3, what is y? Minus 3. Minus 2, minus 2, right? Okay? So now, for this graph then, my x values stay the same, but what happens to my y values? They're all positive, right? So now it's negative 3 and 3. Negative 2 and 2. 1, 0, 1, 2. That's right here. Right here. Right here. There. There's the absolute value of it.
But those are long absolute values.
Again?
That's like most absolute values.
Well, they're all on the original graph.
Okay, but let's just consider one. Thank you, Maya.
I don't follow your question.
Well, the total value of x.
Yeah.
Absolute value.
Yes.
But you said, so is the positive 3, the positive 2, are they each their own absolute value?
I'm taking, what is this telling me to do to my graph? Take the absolute value of all the x values. So if these are my x values that I listed out on my original graph, and I got this is my y value here. So I got this from putting minus 3 into this equation. I got this from putting minus 2 into the equation. Minus 1 comes from putting minus 1 in that equation. Now, I want to take the absolute value of those x values. So the absolute value minus 3 is 3, minus 2 is 2, that's how I get it. Yes, Lexi?
So like, when you have an equation and it has x, say it's like 4x plus 5. where you
Okay,
get
let me, I'll do that now, okay? Alright, so, let's work with Lexi's question here, which is this. She's got a graph of 4x plus 5. Actually, I'm gonna do 4x subtract 5, okay, Lex? Same idea, but it's just an easier graph to graph for me. Okay. So, I gotta graph this. So here's, we're getting back to having to be able to graph lines. Alright? So let's graph this line. Where do I go? Where's my starting point?
Oh,
One. Where's my starting point?
-5.
0 and -5. Point means you have a coordinate, an x and a y. So I go to 0 and -5, right? And then where does my map tell me to go from there?
Up 4 to the right one.
Up 4 to the right 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, right 1 to right here. Right? Okay, we following? Liam? Yeah? So I go like this, right? So there I have it. There's my graph of y equals 4x subtract 5. So now I want to graph the absolute value. G of x is equal to the absolute value of 4x subtract 5.
So you just put
So-
your x in.
So you have a choice here. You have a choice here. You can put a table of values out there and then graph it, or I can just reflect it. When it touches that x-axis, it's going to reflect up. So 0 and -5 is going to become what?
0,
0 and 5. So the graph goes like this. I just reflect it up over the x-axis. So this line right here no longer exists. It's now up because of absolute value. You follow that? We need to know this first because I'm about to do a parabola for you.
And then you just put your 5 into the place.
I don't do anything now. I'm done.
But okay, you don't put anything like that.
No, because I graphed it using my slope and my y-intercept.
Oh, I got it. Okay.
Okay? Alright, here's where it gets a little more complicated. But it's not really that complicated because you're doing the same thing. I'm going to graph f of x equals x squared subtract 4. Okay, what's my vertex? What's my vertex?
0 and 4.
0 and what?
4.
Nope.
0.
Close. What is it? Yeah. Okay, good, Alexa. My vertex? 0, -4. Okay, how much work have we done with parabolas this year so far? And quadratic equations? Lots. 3 units worth. You gotta know that by now. Okay, shouldn't have to pull it out of here. Okay, so now, the other thing that you would figure out is your zeros, which would be -2 and +2. So I have that. Alright? Now I want the absolute value of this guy. So again, you're welcome to plot points. To me, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the one distinct point that I actually know, which is my vertex. And instead of it being 0 and -4, because I have to take the absolute value of -4 now, that's what my equation says to do, right? I'm going to make it 0 and 4. So this coordinate right here goes up here. So how does this graph look now?
It can't go into the negatives.
Can't go into the negatives. So there's my graph. of the absolute value of x squared subtract 4. Now, any questions so far? Again, I took the coordinate, my vertex, my -4, and made it +4. Because that's what I'm doing to all those y values. So all of these y values that were down here all become positive now. So they come up here. All right? Now, this can go into the negative. If I were to change this equation and make it -1, let's say. So outside the absolute value, then this whole graph would move down 1. So it can end up there. But you don't do that till the very end. Okay, so that is a possibility. So it's not saying that it will always end up as a positive. That's not true. But if everything in the equation is inside the absolute value brackets, then it's always going to be in the positive. Okay? But if there's numbers on the outside of it, it may not be on the positive. It could move up and down. All right? Okay, so example 1, absolute value 3x minus 1. Okay, I'm done with this for today. All right? We will go through it. The reason I'm showing you is because those of you that are away tomorrow, we will go through these examples and have to do 722 tomorrow. So I'm just showing you today.
You won't want some plus
7-1 and 7-2. So you do 7-1 today and 7-2 tomorrow. 7-3 will be done on Monday. Okay? All right. I better not shut that off. You will have a chance to finish up those tests right now. And when you're done, you get to